Welcome to another episode here on Regitroil TV on Family Business Experts, where I get a chance to interview consultants, advisors, experts, authors, speakers who can give us insights and ideas that can positively impact our families as well as our businesses, and more importantly to the family businesses that we're adding value to with this overall channel. So Solyman, thanks for joining us today. I'm going to give him a quick formal introduction and we'll get started as we talk about the digital workplace, remote working, what's happening as a result of this coronavirus. We'll talk about the balance between salary and productivity. We're going to get into discussing engagement with employees and many other things today with Solayman Refae. So let me tell you a bit about him. He's got a master's degree in computer science from the US. He's been a CIO now for over 25 years across Canada, Middle East, Africa markets. He started his career in Toronto and then he worked for IBM Canada, and from there consulted many Fortune 500 companies to include Bell Canada, Merrill Lynch, and also Sony to mention a few. He then transferred from there to eventually to Saudi Air Defense to lead a major digital transformational project. And after that, moved to Dubai, working with a multi-billion-dollar family business conglomerate, focusing on their digital transformation across the region. And since then, our paths have crossed. He's also become a partner with our firm, RTS Global Partners, and we're working strategically with Solyman to support more businesses out there when it comes to the digital workplace, working with remote workers, and what we can do to become more efficient in these areas. So welcome, Solyman. Hopefully that was a quick introduction. I didn't miss anything out. And welcome. And I really like to kick off straight away and get your insights for our viewers on this whole Corona crisis experience. You know, what's your thoughts? What's happening and where do we go from here?
Thank you very much, Reg, for the great introduction. And actually, I'm as passionate as you are about digital transformation and digital workplace. So I think if we start talking about Corona experience, you know what? Corona has not been a good experience for most people, right? It's like individual, employers, employee. A lot of people has lost their jobs, employee lost productivity, and all this. Unless you are Amazon or Zoom or Netflix, you probably are on the the other side of the some people are less affected than others. This should be interesting to look at. Some companies less affected. Why? Maybe some companies by nature they were online companies or they were digital company, right. So they were not less affected. Or company are more, they have a better or stronger business continuity plan. But now we have start to see some benefit already happening now, and we're seeing something happening in the future. What we have happening now is some people are now work from home model. Work from home. People start to work from home. It's not by choice. In the first few weeks of the coronavirus, a lot of people were skeptical about it. So a lot of people did not even, whether employee or employee, thought it was a vacation time. Later on, they thought it's going to be a prolonged period of time, so people start to really working.
So Solyman, can I ask you, what does that mean then? Does that mean like people have obviously spent 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks in some countries, maybe even 8 weeks in a lockdown, full lockdown or partial lockdown situation. They're forced to working from home. It's been a huge learning curve for many people out there. So what does that mean? Does that mean people will go back to the normal way of working in their offices? Does it mean businesses will rethink in the future how they want to work with their employees? Will downsizing happen? Will people become leaner? What are your thoughts? And maybe you could also give some tips to the owners, entrepreneurs watching this show. What would be 1, 2, 3 things that they should take in consideration now as they think about current and then post-COVID?
Excellent point. Some people actually, we've seen some people have lost their job, and this is usually a normal reaction because some people start cutting, this is easy. And some people probably, people who have a little bit more cash flow, they have kept their people, although they were not really using all of these people productivity. But eventually, companies will start to think, why do I have to do this? Okay, is there a better model for me to do that? And actually, that model start to show, because people are starting being used to it, employers are comfortable with the work model, and already now there have been tools and maturity in the market for it to happen. So what we're seeing is that we're seeing some new model coming into place where people can start to think about scalability, So I already have some people sitting at home, 8 weeks. Do I really need them all the time there at home?
So
Maybe.
what's the first core question that any CEO or board executive team needs to be able to answer now? What would be the first thing?
First thing is that, well, nobody wants to talk about decreasing of workforce, but is how can they make the workforce leaner, really?
Okay.
This is really and this is what we're talking about scalability. Do I need, let's say, some people have 10 accountants all the time, even during a normal situation. Are these 10 people always in need? Are they always fully busy? Okay, or do I need them in sometimes 20, 40%, and maybe sometimes it spikes at 70 or 80%? Maybe I can. Now I'm able to do this. But also,
so that's the first thing. Yeah, the first thing is then, do we really need people in the future? What people do we need which are critical for the business maybe? Which people, we had them there, but now we probably don't need them. We can become leaner. Or which people need to be in an office environment maybe, and which people can continue to work digitally, remotely? Would these 100%. Be some of the things to look at?
So I think they would have to talk about who should be maybe a part-time, who should be full-time, who should be probably on a percentage level. And not every single job can be, and not every single person can do that, because it requires specific competency. Not every single person have it. But also, what is core to my environment and what's not core, And this is what defines what has to stay in and what can be outsourced. Now think about like a managed service. We used to have managed service of IT, managed service of accounting, but there's been specific function. Now we're going to move into maybe an employee as a managed service, like, that type of thinking where some employee become like, having their own, percentage. I have a contract with you throughout the year. I have a minimum this much, but at certain time I may peak. But also this model that we're talking about is going to create another opportunity for us to use a talent at source, a talent from their source. Like,
so will that mean there'll be more freelancers, more people become self-employed, and now you can pick who you need to say, okay, I'm going to have that person for 2 days a week, 3 days a week, 1 day a week, and that person also could be working with other companies doing the same. So you end up with this whole section in the economy of more freelancers and self-employed people. Yes, is that where it's going?
This has been, by the way, this has been there for a while. It was called the gig economy.
The gig economy. Okay.
The gig economy.
Right.
It's been there for a few years now, and there've been some website and all that to promote that. But okay. It was not, most of big organizations, it was not really adopted very well. Now with the coronavirus, it created for a lot of employee the ability to see that how this can work internally, and now how can they benefit. And actually, a recent survey by Gartner for the CFOs, for few CFOs in the States, yes. Came up with around 74% of the CFOs. They want to move, they're planning on moving minimum of 20% of their workforce to work from home or remote work after Corona.
So can I ask you then, based on that fact from the Gartner report, let's go to the next stage then for people listening. Once they've done that and they've assessed, what they need, what they don't need, what people could become part-time, who they don't require, who's critical, let's assume that the new normal in the future is more and more people will be working remotely in the future. The digital workforce is going to become a major trend and a way of operating as a new operating system for companies. What would be some of the tools required? okay, to make that happen for a company now? What's your checklist of tools that they need to consider?
Excellent point. Okay. So now we say, okay, we understand that there's going to be a new work model in place, whether we like it or not, and it's going to happen. And we start seeing the changes in the people experience and in the employer's experience. So now we're talking how to make it happen. To make this happen, first, we have to define what is the objective that we want, because let's think about it. There's multiple objectives of this model. One objective is I want to just put my people on remote work from home just during disruption time. I want to use a scalable workforce. I want to use this work model or digital workplace to improve the innovation and creativity. So based on any of my objective, the tools will change. You know, I may be enough with Zoom and intranet and some cloud. I'm talking just the tools, right? But with other things, maybe I need a social network like Facebook that inside. I may need AI. I need a chatbot. I may need IoT. You know, I may need some of these emerging technology to help me through that. Mm-hmm. I believe personally in right size. You know, especially right size IT or right technology.
What does that mean? Right size technology.
Do not spend more than you need. So because technology, there's a technical debt of anything that you bring into your organization. So if you don't want to use it, you know, don't go there. So to do that, you have to define what is it that you need. So the objective. So to ensure that you maximize of what you want.
So this is where you come in, yeah, because as a CIO with 25 years experience, there's loads of tools, there's loads of technologies. It's more about the architecture, the strategy. You know, what does the business want to achieve in the future? Is it, okay, we want to reduce our operating expenses by 18% in the next 12 months. We want to reduce our workforce from 1,000 people to 500 people in the next 18 months. 100%. Is this the type of conversation that we need to happen, and then build out a plan and then work out what tools or technology is required to make that happen?
100%. This is exactly what you're saying. You know, let's say a company come and say, you know what, I have this much of support service in my company. I want to bring the support service at least, or 50% of them. You know, I want to bring them to 20% down. So I may want to make them scalable. So what does that mean? You know, I may have to bring not only technology, but I have to change organization, which is I need to look at the people. I need to look at the processes internally at the company that supports these people. I'm looking at change management. So there's certain stuff I have. And for doing this stuff, also, there's some stuff that lay down in the technology. Let's say I'm looking at this specific infrastructure. I'm looking at specific security. I'm looking at the documentation. I'm looking at centralization of the information. Certain stuff that has to come in place to make this successful. Because at the end of the day, to get the benefit and to get the business benefit for the company, we have to have all of these run together, you know. And
if we don't do any of these things, what's going to happen?
If we don't do any of these things now, other companies will going to start to do it, you know, because they're going to start to see the benefit.
So competition will now start doing it, or maybe new startups could be born who will run differently from day one. Yes.
So that's one. Another, we will start to probably now it's not the right time to talk about losing employee, because lots of employees without their jobs, but talents are not without a job. That's what we have to be thinking about. So talents, maybe they probably start to look at other ones that will provide them the type of environment that they are interested in. So we may be started to lose some talents, you know. This is one area. Another area is that because I was not able to reduce my cost, my other competition was able to reduce costs, so they can compete better. And that digital workplace, what we're trying to say, it will be like people who had similar things. They were able, even during coronavirus, to still communicate better. They still serve their customer better because they have the tools that allow them to collaborate.
So when you talk about tools, Solayman, do you, just keeping it simple for a second, to have a digital workforce work effectively, is it as easy as just having a Zoom or a WebEx or a Blue Jeans or a MS Teams and then your intranet and you're done? Or
No,
is there other things to consider?
see that goes back. This is a very good question. You know, it goes back to one I answered before. Let's say you tell me, Raj, I have a bike, right? I have a bike. Is my bike good enough? You're asking me, right? So I will ask you, for my first question to you is that, what do you use this bike for? Do you want it for sports? Do you exercise, or you want to use it to go to work? And where is your work? Is your work 40 kilometers away, or is it 2 kilometers away? So based on your answers, I can tell you, is this bike good enough for you or not? So these tools, as I said, they have to service a specific a need. They are an enabler to a specific objective, a business value. So we have to know what is the business objective of the value that we need to do. And then we're talking about these tools.
So can I ask you then, if we take it to another level and go a bit more deeper into our conversation, you know, if we want to maximize our net profit, ultimately, you know, two things have to happen in any business. You know, we've got to create more value somewhere, and we've got to make sure our revenues increase. And obviously, we have to have cost savings and make sure we manage our expenses. And if every person listening to us today in this video, you know, did both of them by an extra 5-10%, you know, reduction 5-10%, 5-10% increase in revenues, that would have a huge impact on their bottom line. So could you walk us through then what could be some of those things which are cost saving elements, and then what could be the areas to boost revenues using technology or other things that are important to you with a CIO hat on?
So that's excellent question. So now let's talking about the saving, which is the clearer example. Okay, so when we're talking about the saving model, we're talking about now when we're moving people to an off or remoting from remote work. Now we are going to start saving on real estate. We're going to start saving on the fixed costs that we have, you know, real estate, admin, certain stuff that we have in the office. Also, we're going to start to save about, you know, if we use a scalable workforce that we're talking about, we start to minimize the salary. So we'll save on salaries. And that was always a fixed cost, a big fixed cost, you know. Also, the recruitment cost that we used to use, you know, because of our employee experience, that will drop down. So all of these are specific costs that we have saved, you know, and travel. And I've done this before in the previous organization. We managed to bring down the travel expense more than 50%. You know, by putting digital workplace, and that was 2-3 years ago. We were doing a board meeting, secure board meeting from Africa to Europe to the Middle East, you know, over 2 days. So we were able to do that. So that's from saving, just few points from saving, from making money or revenue generation or increasing revenue. That goes to the innovation and productivity. We should increase in innovation. We should increase in time to market, and should minimize, you know, the cost of sale and increase the.
Can I ask you, Solayman? You know, I get the operating expenses areas. That seems like a lot of common sense there, the steps. When it comes to innovation, however, people sort of know they need to, but there's also a contradiction, which is innovation is going to cost money. And right now, we don't have the luxury of investing in innovation because it's all about survival.
100%.
So what do you do?
Actually, innovation, let's put it out. It doesn't have to cost money. That's the point, you know. First, it doesn't have to cost money. Second, innovation is needed for you to compete, to be able to compete moving forward, because it's going to become more and more competitive environment. But why is it not going to cost a lot of money? Because the way you're going to run the innovation, you know, innovation comes from who? You have to decide, how is the kind of innovation going to come? Who's going to bring you the innovation? And how are you going to do the innovation internally on a small, what they call fail forward and fast, and fast failure. So you can create something quick, test it, and move on. If it works, it doesn't work, and move on. So innovation, it does not have to be that expensive. And on top of that, you should be working on prioritization, you know. So when you do something like that, we work on what is it, the one that has the most ROI or has the highest possibility to happen or to work and to bring value to us.
Right.
But you have to have an innovation inside, like Amazon with single button on. You know, remember you know about the single button on Amazon, and it was from one person that came that idea, and how much increase in the revenue it brought them. And this is from the frontliners in the company.
Got it. Got it. So outside of this now, and for those of you watching, you know, we'll make sure that there's details in the description area so you can find out more about our firm and how you can get hold of Solayman as well. And I think it's important that if you're interested in creating the right architecture, blueprint, strategy for your digital workforce, find ways of saving money, boosting revenues, you know, what is the innovation process without it costing you a fortune, what tools need to be used, then definitely reach out to us. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, leave your comments, and hopefully we'll have more episodes like this in the near future as we talk to Solayman and other experts about what's happening in the digital space. So Solayman, moving on from there, what other tips can you give in terms of what the process is when it comes to engagement? Okay, what's typically the process? What could you do for people who are watching this right now? Could you talk us through that process?
Sure. Usually, the way we deal with similar engagement, this is a digital transformation or strategic transformation. We usually follow a five-phase approach, right, into doing this. We go by first phase where we define the objectives and we do high-level assessments. And based on that and the objective of the top management and the assessment of the environment and the maturity of the environment, we define the as-is, and then we come up with the scoping. And then we move to the second phase where we do the architecture of the change, where we define the to-be, where it has to be done. And then we move to the third stage where we define the initiative that has to happen, and we plan them and we prioritize them based on budget, resources, and who can do them, internal team, external team, and what we can leverage from internal resources. Then we move to the fourth stage where we execute the solution, you know, and like project implementations. And then the fifth one is the go live and the measurement of the benefits. The most important things is benefit realization. We have to ensure that each one of these projects we have, it meets the ROI that we plan and it maps back to the objective. So this is usually the phase that we go about. So, but the way we start is that we start with usually the first one, which is a session that we can have with the and then we usually offer sometimes a no commitment session to companies.
Whoever's watching this today, they can obviously get hold of us through the description, and as you're saying earlier, there would be initial deep dive discovery, no obligation meeting. Virtual meeting can happen immediately. Obviously, with your experience in Africa, Middle East, and Asia, you also speak a few other languages, which I think is really helpful for the Middle East, North Africa region. And that really helps with certain family business boards that need someone like that. So I hope you reach out to us. Solayman, if we could sort of come to an end with this interview, in summary, keeping it really brief, 1, 2, and 3, few tips. Anyone watching right now for the future, what would be some extra 1, 2, 3 tips that they should consider to set up their digital workplace, save money, make money? Just briefly in closing.
I'm not going to give a lot of tips now. I think so. To summarize these 3, I can keep if they can reach out to me, I can give them more tips on this. But to reach out to summarize in 3, the new work model is here to stay, and it's obviously here to stay. So make sure to benefit from it, and to be able to benefit from it, you have to run a digital workplace program to be able to benefit from it and define the objectives and what it relates to each other. And to be able to go through that, go slowly, step by step, do not to jump, it's because it's a lot of it is a change management and organization management, which is, it's harder to achieve.
Well, that's great. I think I appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
It's a nice small episode here. Hopefully we've given people an opportunity to think about things, create a little bit more awareness, hopefully motivate you to say, okay, you know what, I do need to speak to my board. I need to speak to people in the organization and start this process now of really becoming a digital workforce, a digital organization, because that is the future. So don't hang around, start. This is a golden opportunity in this year, 2020, to do this. And I want to thank Solayman again. The details are below to find out more. Don't forget to watch some of the other episodes on our channel for family business experts. Recently, we had some videos on coaching and mentoring and also employee engagement, and also the vaccine for cultural transformation, which is a great video to watch, as well as some of the other show themes that we've got. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon. Bye for now. Thank you very much, Solayman.